Good evening, class, and welcome to Binary Gamer. I'm your host, Tony Spears, and this is the show where passionate people talk passionately about the thing that we are passionate about, and that thing is video games. So, business out of the way first. Binary Gamer is a podcast you can find all the places you get your podcast, whether it be iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, doesn't matter. If you can listen to a podcast there, you can listen to Binary Gamer. You can also find us over here every Sunday over on twitch.tv/binary_gamer. And lastly, but not leastly, you can check out all of the stuff that we do, whether it be videos, streams, doesn't matter. Everything is over there on YouTube. And of course, all the social media platforms, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all those places. If you search Binary Gamer, look for our awesome little logo, you can check that out. And last bit of news, or a bit of business as it were, you can support us over at patreon.com/binary_gamer, and you can help us out over there. 90% of donations of the money every month goes to the charity of the month. This month it is stackup.org. We're going to go with them on the 30th, and we're going to be doing a minimum 12-hour live stream in order to raise our $500 goal to help out an awesome veterans charity. They're doing awesome stuff over there, and you should definitely go over there and support them. Even if you don't donate through our page, if you decide that you don't want to support through the Patreon and just want to donate directly, go and help a good cause out. It definitely doesn't hurt. And with that, let's get in to the show proper. So we're gonna get into the week that was, and man, was it a good week. We are up and running. Finally, the universe is back to center, and we now have a full-blown actual desktop PC. It's amazing. Everything works again. It's fantastic. I'm so happy. I cannot express in words how happy I am to actually have a working computer again. Oh my god, it is so nice. I can't talk too much crap about old Painless over here. This bad boy definitely was helping while the big machine was down. For those listening to the podcast and not watching, I'm holding up my HP Potato. If you're not familiar with the model, it's because you haven't had a 12+ year old laptop to work with when everything else was broken. But I can't complain. It definitely did the job while I was getting everything fixed here. And now luckily everything is fixed. So we are back in business, which means not only are we going to be doing the podcast, but a lot more live streams and other videos as well. So that is awesome. I am greatly looking forward to that. Yeah. Put you down here. Have your rest now. But aside from that, what have we been playing? What have we been doing? Well, the answer to that is quite simple. Anything and everything. So, still been playing some Apex Legends. Still am not nearly as good at that game as I should be. For as many hours as I've put into it, I am not nearly as good at first-person shooters as I used to be. And that's kind of what we're going to be talking about today. But aside from that, went back, played some more Monster Hunter World, playing some other small stuff too, playing a lot of Tetris 99. That game is still really good. The whole idea, everyone likes to throw the Battle Royale tag onto Tetris 99. I don't really think of it as a Battle Royale game as much as I think of it as just competitive Tetris. I mean, that's like saying that Puzzle Fighter is PvP is a PvP puzzle game. It's really not. It's just a competitive puzzle game. I mean, for God's sake, Bust a Move was doing kind of what Tetris 99 is doing now, but slightly different format. So to me, it's kind of apples and oranges, but it is what it is. But been playing a lot of that and some Mario Odyssey. My kids' birthdays were this weekend. They got a bunch of games. I was playing some Kirby Star Allies with my son. That game is actually a lot more fun than it has any right to be perfectly honest with you. I was actually really taken aback by man, I'm having a really good time with this game. It is, a lot of the reviews that I had read for it and that I'd watched said that it really doesn't pose much challenge, and it really doesn't. All the times that we died was usually due to like platforming error. So like, you know, not jumping far enough for a thing, or not realizing that Kirby has infinite jump in this game as opposed to like Smash Brothers. So you can float your way across the level and never touch an enemy if you wanted to. But it's still a really fun game. And then ARMS. Come to find out, ARMS is actually a pretty fun game. The motion control thing is still really freaking gimmicky, but as far as just, you know, holding the Joy-Con and playing, like whether it's against my son or playing against the computer, it's actually a pretty decent game. I don't understand how they thought they were going to make a competitive scene off of it, because it's not, I don't know, it's not geared that way. Nintendo definitely didn't gear it that way, but I can definitely see where someone would have got the idea to try, and hopefully they realize that was not a venture worth going down. But all in all, still really fun game. And that's really been the week. Still, you know, plugging away at a lot of older games and stuff like that. Stuff that, you know, I have this backlog of games that I want to finish. Like, I really want to finish Rebel Galaxy. I still really want to finish, you know, freaking The Witcher 3. Just so many other games. Like, I want to play Astroneer now that it's in like the full-blown, you know, 1.0 release, which if you haven't been playing that game, holy cow, is it a lot of fun. Like, it was still really fun when it was in early access, and it was very much this like really rough, like, hey, did you like Space Engineers? Do you like Minecraft? You're gonna love this game. And they were kind of right. It's still a really fun game, but it's definitely, that game really shines when you're playing it with multiple people. When you're playing with 2 or 3 people, that game is just an absolute marvel to behold, because it's, you know, everybody's running around and everyone's kind of, it kind of has that feeling like what Minecraft did when it first started, and everyone's like, oh, let's go and let's build this thing and do this thing and get these resources to, you know, make a furnace or to make an enchanting table and stuff like that. But in this game, it's like, you know, we need to go and get a bunch of stuff to research so we can, you know, build a bigger generator and to, you know, power the base more, because we're using up too much power, because now we have a furnace and a freaking and a centrifuge and all this stuff. It still kind of, it very much scratches that itch of like giving you expansion, giving you like a, you know, a sense of exploration, but it's also very much like system based, where you're paying a lot more attention to the fact that you need to like keep your place running, your base running efficiently. If you want to, you know, be able to research stuff and smelt stuff and use the centrifuge and print off, you know, bigger things and eventually build a rocket to go to another planet. And I think all that is really cool. I think it's cool that they have found a way to kind of tie both those experiences, the very much like Minecrafty, oh, hey, we're going to go over here and we're going to dig this hole to go find these resources. And that kind of like, I almost liken it to like a Factorio, where you're trying to be as efficient and build up these systems as fast as possible so that you can build the bigger and better thing. That game really is a lot of fun. Like I said, it's really fun playing by yourself, but man, it's a completely different world when you're playing with multiple people. So far, we did a stream a couple days ago. There's 3 of us. It's myself, Catatonic, and KGB, the Yeetie, if you will, over there. And man, that was a lot of fun. That was pretty good. So we'll probably definitely be doing more of that, so be on the lookout for that. But let's get into the actual subject of this week. So for those that are following us over on YouTube, you might have saw my binary blog where I kind of went on a bit of a rant in relation to Anthem and about how I don't understand how games like that are still being made. And I'm not talking third person, over the shoulder, loot based shooters, nothing like that. I'm talking like a game that is that fundamentally broken. And whether you agree or disagree, that's not really the subject here, but it got me thinking about other shooters. And so in doing so, I decided that this week we would talk about shooters. And what better way to talk about shooters than to go all the way back to the granddaddy of shooters, and that is Wolfenstein. So this isn't just talking about Wolfenstein. We're actually going to be talking about what I like to consider the golden years of shooters. The the years where things were just absolutely crazy go nuts when it comes to what these games were doing initially and then what it evolved into. Now, there will be some notable exceptions here. I am not including Half-Life into this, and I'm not including Counter-Strike. And the main reason why is because I consider Half-Life more of a story involving guns than I do an actual first-person shooter. Now, it's undeniable that Half-Life and Half-Life 2 have very much influenced the first-person shooter genre. But when we're talking about just strictly mechanics, strictly like playing the game and the way it feels playing the game, Half-Life isn't about that. Half-Life is about immersing you in that world and giving you the tools to manipulate in that world. If nothing proves that, if nothing else proves that, the gravity gun is the greatest proof that Valve was all about giving you tools to manipulate the landscape. So we're not going to be talking about Half-Life, and the reason we're not going to be talking about Counter-Strike is because based strictly in a like PvP competitive aspect, it hasn't really changed a whole lot mechanically. So I think that it's easy to say that a lot of the things that that Counter-Strike brought to the table was a big milestone when it comes to competitive first-person shooters. But because the meta stays the meta and it really is just about the player's skill at that point, we're going to exclude it. And to be perfectly honest, Counter-Strike is the type of game that sort of requires its own episode. So we're not going to be talking about that one. What we will be talking about, though, are specifically, in actually this order, Wolfenstein, Doom, Quake, Quake 2, GoldenEye 007, Medal of Honor, Unreal Tournament, and Halo Combat Evolved. So we're going to start off with Wolfenstein. And the main reason that we're talking about Wolfenstein is, well, we're talking primarily about Wolfenstein 3D. So my earliest memory with this game was going over to my friend Jacob's house, and he had it on his mom's computer. And it was the same thing that they did with the much earlier versions of Doom, where it was all shareware. So he, for some reason, had this game on there. I don't know how he got it. I'm pretty sure his sister got it from somewhere, but there's no way of knowing. It was all mysteries to us back then. But I remember playing that game and thinking, like, wow, this is really simplistic. Like, there's not a whole lot to this game. You just pick up a gun, you start shooting these bad guys, and then, later on you find out these bad guys are Nazis. And then you play through the game, and at some point you realize, oh snap, I have to kill Hitler. So it really goes places. But Wolfenstein was crazy because I had never seen a game where it seemed like the levels had such depth to them. And the fact that it wasn't really true 3D wasn't really a thing to me. That didn't really pop in my brain at the time. It was the fact that back in 92, when this game came out, this game was crazy because you're walking around and you're blasting dudes, and you're like, man, this is actually a really good playing game. Now, you don't think about the fact that, like, you can't jump. You can't, like, you don't really traverse up and down. All of the levels in this game are just flat. That's why it's Castle Wolfenstein. It's not, the ramparts of Wolfenstein. No one's, charging up a ramp or going upstairs and stuff like that. That was, reserved much later for games like Doom and Doom 2. And then you're not really aiming in this game. You're strafing back and forth. You're kind of doing a little bit of a song and dance when you're trying to avoid, gunfire from these Nazis and various other baddies. But for the most part, you're just kind of moving back and forth, moving through the levels, and you're, left clicking on whatever gets in your way, and, they're going to drop. It's pretty simplistic. But at the time, as a kid, you're like, man, this is intense. And the game can get pretty intense. One of the things that I think is a hallmark of Wolfenstein is the fact that you have the setting, and it's a very simplistic setting, and the reason it's set inside of a castle is because to create an outdoor environment would have been too much at the time. Like, id is a very, very well respected and talented studio, but for the hardware they were able to build for at the time, even on the PC, you're looking at a lot of limitations. So everything had to be inside this box, and the best way to build the box was to have the walls around it, and all the walls are slate gray with a couple of little digital bookcases here and maybe a barrel over there. But for the most part, the only real features on the walls are the doors. And you're just going through and, slaying, not zombies, slaying Nazis and going through, and eventually you find the door to the next room, and you're going through the levels of this castle. No one cared about story back then. It was just all about how it played, and it played well. And that's one of the things that, as the series goes on, you have games like, Return to Wolfenstein, which was amazing to me. I remember playing Return to Wolfenstein and being like, holy crap, this game is amazing. And then you had like Enemy Territory, which was a expansion to Return to Castle Wolfenstein, which really tried to plan it more into like a serious first-person shooter scenario, as opposed to just giving you tools to, there wasn't a lot more story expansion. It was mostly multiplayer stuff. It was still a lot of fun, though. And then, of course, you have Wolfenstein the New Order, Wolfenstein the New Blood, and it goes on from there. And the current iterations of Wolfenstein are amazing games because they decided to stick with the formula of BG Blazkowicz has a health bar, and BG Blazkowicz has to find health packs in order to survive through these levels. If you don't do that, you're not going to make it. Because as time went on, first-person shooters got away from giving you a health bar, giving you a health gauge. And it came down to, running back to cover, letting your health regenerate, and then moving on. But Wolfenstein never did that. Wolfenstein just decided, you know what, we're going to give you this life bar, and maybe you get armor, and you're going to go through, and if it hits 0, you're dead, homie. Like, there's, you're going to go back to where you were, and that's a wrap. So to me, it's really cool to see that so much of this game stays true to the original vision of what Wolfenstein 3D, initially was. Of course, it looks better, it plays better as time goes on. It's, technological advancements going to allow that. But it's really cool to me that, they stuck with the original formula. BJ Blazkowicz, gets captured by Nazis, kills a Nazi guard to get his hands on a gun, works his way through the levels, eventually slays the boss, which is most of the time Hitler, but you get the gist. He's still going to pick up health packs. He's going to pick up bullets. He's, going to get armor. Maybe he'll have some stealth sequences. Meh. But it stays relatively unchanged. And I think that's commendable, if nothing else, especially in today's day and age where so many shooters are trying to evolve to be different. Wolfenstein, as a series, decided, no, this works and this is what we're going to do. You can't not respect that. So moving on, we're talking about Doom. And man, oh man, a lot of people credit Doom as like the granddaddy of shooters. And to an extent, they're right. But, Wolfenstein obviously comes before it and informs a lot of what Doom is. Still made by id Software, comes out in 1993, so only a year later. But at this point, so much has already changed. The setting has changed. The ferocity of the enemies has changed. The aggressiveness of the game has changed. And it's crazy to me that you look back on Doom, like OG Doom, and the game is kind of timeless when you're really thinking about it. Especially with the mod scene as it exists today, Doom very much is, for the most part, it's the infinite game. And it's hilarious to me that, it's gone on similar to how Wolfenstein has, where there has been a lot of iterations over the course of time. A lot of people did not care for Doom 3 because it tried to do like this whole survival horror thing, but like Doom 1 and Doom 2 were very much like, you're the Doom Marine, here's a gun, there's demons out there for you to slay, get at it. And you do. And it goes, man. It goes places. So, in fact, it goes to hell. After you're on Mars, you go from Mars to hell, and Doom 2 wanted you to go to Earth, but it wasn't originally going to be. No, sorry, Doom 2 was still Mars going to hell, and then Doom 3 was initially going to be you're on Earth and slaying demons, but then they decided not to do that. So then Doom 3 became like a survival horror thing, and like it looked really pretty, but it wasn't all that great. But then when the essential remake of Doom comes out in 2016, man, oh man, did that game it took everything that was great about first-person shooters and just cranked it to 11. Again, still stays with the formula of you're the Doom Marine, you pick up a gun, you got bullets, that's great. You're gonna have health, you're gonna have a health bar, and you're gonna have armor. Now, the fact that the 2016 Doom tied getting your health back to doing the executions and stuff, that was a little like wishy-washy when it came to people's opinion on it, because a lot of people didn't care for that. I personally thought it was pretty cool. It was very much, you know, hey, get your health back, a la Space Marine. And while that's not a perfect system, it at least makes it to where you have to engage differently. Like, you're not, you know, getting hit and you're like, oh yeah, there's a health pack back in that room, and you run back to the room and you get your health back because you found a med kit. Instead, it's okay, I have to go and I got to get in this dude's face after I hit him a couple times, and I got to execute him, because if I don't, I'm gonna die, because these freaking cacodemons are, you know, blasting me with fireballs. Or, you know, there's a revenant over here that's just, you know, torching me and hitting me with freaking rockets. You have to actually keep moving. That's the beauty of Doom. Is it's a shooter that if you stand still, you're going to die. You have to move. This game set up the entire concept of run and gun. A lot of people like to think of shooters anymore as like the slow plotting ones, like your a la your Battlefields, things that are trying to be more simulation than they are shooting. And then you have your Twitch games, which are very much like your Call of Duties, your, you know, Counter-Strike to an extent. Even games like Unreal Tournament are very Twitch based. But Doom started essentially the running gun, which is, again, if you stand still, you're going to die. Keep moving and you'll survive. And that's pretty freaking awesome. Now, the multiplayer aspects of Doom can be voted on back and forth as to whether or not they really informed the genre. But a lot of that credit goes to Quake and to Quake 2. Mostly because you're looking at a very different system of play. The Doom multiplayer was very much like, hey, you're in the Doom levels and it's just no demons around, you're, you know, blasting against each other. Whereas Quake didn't do that. Quake gave you levels, like individually made levels to go through and to slay each other on. And then also, like, the for lack of a better word, the violence of the weapons in Quake are completely different, like whole new tiers above what you have in something like Doom. Like, Doom is very much grounded in, like, you get a plasma rifle, which, you know, again, set on Mars, you eventually go to hell, so give me a little leeway when I say like realistic. But, you know, you find, like, you know, the plasma rifle, you have the double-barreled shotgun, you have a pistol, a rocket launcher, you have, you know, an assault rifle, you know, the chain gun, stuff like that. It's more realistic, more grounded. Whereas in Quake, like, you're gonna get a shotgun, but it's probably gonna be a quad-barrel shotgun, or you're gonna get the nail gun, or you're gonna get this freaking rocket launcher that also doubles as a grenade launcher because it just shoots, you know, unpropelled rockets. Sure, whatever. Or you have the freaking what was it? You know, you have the rocket jump, which happens to be one of the most revolutionary mechanics in a game, because it's like, oh yeah, well, the physics actually work here. Like, this rocket blast will actually knock you back. And then someone somewhere was like, well, what if I jump while the rocket goes off below me? Maybe I can jump higher. And then what do you know, it did. And so that changed things. In fact, that whole slew of gameplay and physics playing together leads us all the way into Halo, which we're not going to jump there yet. But it's crazy to me to think that, like, the rocket jump as a concept survives all the way even into modern shooters. Now, I mean, you're not going to, if they ever introduce like rocket launchers into something like Apex Legends or something like that, I highly doubt the rocket jump is going to be a viable option, because, you know, health is the most premium currency during the game, more so even than bullets. But, you know, it's crazy to think that a lot of your shooters, a lot of your more like arena-based shooters, if you will, you know, still let things like that adhere in the physics of it. You know, the rocket jump is still viable. You can still somehow pull off a freaking stick in Halo. And that's the great thing too, is that a lot of these games end up creating their own lexicons, creating their own vocabularies. Like, if you say, I pulled off a stick, and you're referring to Halo, people know that you hit someone in the freaking face with a freaking plasma grenade, and it blew them up. Fantastic. Good job, bud. Or, you know, fucking the phrase 360 no scope. Now, is it the most cliche gamer thing in the world to say? Yeah, but it's completely doable. If you're playing freaking Unreal Tournament and you have a railgun, you could be flipping through the air off of a freaking jump pad, you know, pull a 316 as you're still coming down, no scope some dude with a railgun, and whammy, you got yourself a frag. Good job, guy. These games end up creating their own, like their own atmospheres, their own little bubbles in gaming. And that's what's, I think, great about gaming in a lot of ways, is that, you know, depending upon which of these spheres that are all kind of rubbing against each other in the vast multiverse that is gaming, depending on which one you're in, you can kind of slide from one to the next and, you know, still have a good time. You can slide in from fighters to shooters to RPGs, simulation games. Maybe you love kart racers. There's a bubble for that too, man. But a lot of them, when they rub against each other certain ways, they can share a lot of similarities. They can share the same vocabulary. They can share mechanics and concepts. And that's really cool. But a lot of that is based in what first-person shooters did. Before first-person shooters, you had puzzle games, you had very basic RPGs, you had platformers, and you had score chase games. And that's really it. And a lot of those score chase games were just variations of those other types of concepts. Like Pac-Man is a maze game. Basically, every other type of maze game is based off of some variation of Pac-Man. Tetris is the puzzle game of puzzle games. It's still all score-based. You know, Super Mario is a platformer and is the most basic type of game when it comes to just straight up player input, manipulating an avatar in a game world. But shooters allowed you to do all those things: run a maze, solve a puzzle, platform. But now you have the added concept of, well, if I get engaged by some bad guy in the world, I can reach out and touch him. On the inverse of that, though, he can reach out and touch me. So now you have to think about it more. There's a whole lot of things that first-person shooters did that changed the gaming landscape. I mean, if nothing else, you can really attribute them to really creating the first competitive scene. But again, that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about some evolution here. So then we get into Quake 2. Now, there's a lot of debate out there. A lot of debate. But Quake 2 is seen as one of the most pure multiplayer first-person shooter experiences in the history of video games. A lot of people will sit here and talk fondly. And in fact, I have pretty good memories of it too, for being perfectly honest, of playing Quake 2 with their friends, like either in a LAN party at someone's house, where someone's poor parents gave up their kitchen or their dining room to, you know, let all these freaking greasy teenage boys hook up computers so they could, you know, have 16 people playing in a freaking match. Or, you know, playing online and some poor rando is having their freaking 56K connection throttled because they're acting as the server, and just playing hours and hours of Quake. And it was awesome. Also, Quake, for all of its trappings, like the plot wasn't super heavy. It's a very basic first-person shooter plot. Like, you're a Marine, you're trying to go and stop some bad guys from invading. Those bad guys just happen to be aliens, and they're called the Strogg, which is a horrible name. But regardless, it's so very like thin and minuscule in the plot line. But you don't even care, because it's 1997 and all you want to do is shoot people online. So when id went and made this game, they're just like, nah, man, we're gonna freaking go and make the multiplayer on this the most dope thing in the world. And they did. It was awesome. And the funny thing is that it had 1v1 that was actually compelling. A lot of time in a first-person shooter, you don't want to play 1v1. It's not fun. It's just, it's you and one other person, and if one of you is vastly superior to the other as far as skill or even hours played into the game, one of you is not going to have a good time. Well, Quake 2 made it fun because just the ridiculous bombast ability of the weapons in that game make it to where you can actually have a pretty decent time even if you're not that good, because you're going to get lucky with a rocket one time. You're going to pull off a freaking headshot with a sniper rifle and freaking waylay someone. You're going to, you know, you're going to be bouncing around and running around so fast that maybe you just outgun the other dude by some strange chance, and that compels you to play more. So then you eventually do get better. To be perfectly honest, playing Quake 2 online is the game that actually got me to like first-person shooters as far as the PC is concerned. Now, it would be sometime later on before I would start caring about first-person shooters on console. In fact, to be perfectly honest, that was Halo for me. I played GoldenEye with my friends as much as anybody else, and we'll get into why GoldenEye was important as far as first-person shooters are concerned. But really, when it came to like the game that made me enjoy playing competitive shooters, it was Quake 2. Like, hands down, it was Quake 2. So hats off, id. Like, you guys somehow figured out a way to distill down what made good first-person multiplayer experiences fun, and then slap a gun in its hands. So hats off, guys. But with that, let's move on to GoldenEye 007. So to say that this game didn't have a big impact on the first-person shooter genre is to undersell it immensely. Is this game perfect by any means? No. It fell prey to everything that happened to first-person shooters, or to any game for that matter, on the N64. But what it did do was make it to where you and 3 of your homeboys could sit in front of the same TV and play 4-player split screen and still have a blast. That concept is so lost on us now, especially when it comes to first-person shooters, because like, you have to think about what couch co-op used to be, and then the fact that it's damn near extinct now. Now, granted, there have been a lot of games that have been pushing back to get more people back into the, you know, everyone on the couch, you know, we're all hanging out, we're all playing the same game, it's on the same screen, and we're all having a good time. Games like Mario Party are all about that. Overcooked, for example. A lot of those games where you have people sitting down and, you know, people, like, individuals are managing systems and stuff. Overcooked is a great example of that, actually. Probably one of the best. But this game made it to where, you know, one of you is going to be James Bond, the other one was going to be Odd Job, and then you're going to get mad because your friend was being Odd Job, and so he can't be Odd Job anymore. So he decides to prove that he's better than you by being Jaws, because he has the largest hitbox out of everybody in that game. Somehow still goes on and wins. Yeah, you're welcome, Wade. And then, you know, someone else is going to be Natasha because, you know, Natasha's pretty cute. And then, you know, you pick random guard number 4 because he's a cool visor. And then you go through and you play on freaking Facility. And, of course, you outlaw remote, proximity mines because freaking A. And you go on and have a great time playing that. But yes, it still fell prey to all the things that made the N64 such a limited system. Like, when you're playing the single player mode in that game, the fact that the fog is, like, the draw distance is closer than the maximum range on the sniper rifle, that tells you something. Like, that's bad. The fact that I can see through this scope that, you know, that dude's over there, but then when I come out of the scope, he's nowhere to be seen. That tells you something, man. But regardless of that, like, regardless of the limitations of the N64, they were smart enough, at least, to go through and put all of the multiplayer levels into confined spaces. And yes, they were very confined spaces, and to an extent it kind of sucked, but at the same time it still worked. Somehow it still worked. Don't ask me how, but it did. And man, so many good memories of us just hanging out in front of the TV and playing just hours and hours of, you know, Facility and freaking, oh, what's the other one, the dam level. Yeah, just so good, so good. And then honestly, that concept wasn't really reiterated on well on the N64 until Perfect Dark came out. And Perfect Dark took it a step further. And your draw distance was, like, way higher. And so the maps became bigger. And that was freaking awesome. The fact that this game made the local multiplayer scene for first-person shooters so good, it speaks absolute volumes of it. I cannot stress enough how much that actually means to the scene. It's absolutely mind-boggling to me. But let us continue on from 007, and we move on to Medal of Honor. Now, I'm going to be speaking about one iteration of Medal of Honor specifically, and that's Allied Assault. Now, Allied Assault was a first-person shooter on the PC that was way better than it had any right to be. But the main thing that you have to remember is how this game starts. This game came out very, very close to the release, the cinematic release of Saving Private Ryan. And if you've never seen Saving Private Ryan, pause this podcast, go back, find it. You can find it somewhere. It is somewhere out there for you to watch. Go out there, watch that movie, go think of Veteran, and then go back and play Allied Assault, because you're going to learn that watching the invasion at Normandy Beach, that's pretty intense. Playing the invasion of Normandy Beach, playing the Normandy scene, the intro to that game, that's a whole different experience. That is living intense. That is the first game that ever gave me anxiety, and not like the, oh man, I'm gonna have a panic attack anxiety. I deal with that enough as it is, but I'm talking like legitimate tension in a video game, and it was crazy to me that I'm like, man, why is my heart rate up? And it's because mortars are dropping around me, and freaking I'm hiding behind this hedgehog on this beach. Everything's going to crap. I'm trying to run to the freaking berm. Like, it's just, it was crazy. Absolutely crazy to play. And it stands out as a game putting you in a setting and just dropping you in and being like, well, guess what, boys? It's go time. And you're 100% immersed in that setting. And you got nowhere else to go because you're looking through the eyes of your character. You can't, sit there and, flip the camera around to look around to, take your eyes off of the fact that bullets are flying at you everywhere. Now, the game is obviously more notable for that particular scene than it is almost anything else. And I hate to say that as if it detracts from the rest of the game, because it doesn't. The game, it plays great. The game was a blast to play back then. It still is now in a lot of ways. But that opening sequence in that game, for me and for a lot of people, solidified the fact that games could make you feel tension. Like these first-person shooters can make you feel tension, aside from just like the competitive aspects. If I sat here and told you I wasn't sweating a lot of time playing GoldenEye against my friends, or playing against a bunch of randos in Quake 2, I'd be lying. But this, like, there was nobody else around. There's no one else around that you're playing. You're not playing against anybody. It's just you and the computer. You're in the campaign, and you're sweating bullets. Like, you're feeling tension, and you're immersed in that moment. That's a powerful thing for a game to be able to do. And that's why this game stands out. This game stands out because it put you in those shoes, and it said, charge this beach. Well, you're going to charge the beach, otherwise you're not getting very far. So that's why this game, I think, not only stands the time, but deserves to be looked back at again. Definitely cements itself in there as one of the top games when you're looking at first-person shooters. So now we move on to Unreal Tournament. And man, oh freaking man. Unreal Tournament was the first game that made me hate playing against people, because this is when I realized that I wasn't good at this type of game. Like, as far as like Twitch-based shooters. Because I cannot tell you how many times I was killed by someone with the railgun. Oh my gosh, it was maddening because they were so good with it. And the railgun didn't have there's no ADS. The railgun didn't have a scope. They were just firing from the hip and just completely obliterating you. And I might hit once every 50 times with the railgun. And then everyone's over here like, oh man, why are you using the grenade? Why are you using the rocket launcher? Well, because I don't have the accuracy that you do. I'm sitting here trying to freaking just get splash damage on you while you're over here, hitting my pinky toe with the railgun, and I explode into a million pieces. Like, the railgun is like the op of sci-fi shooters. Which, again, the op is a completely separate subject that we'll not speak on at the moment. It's probably one of those controversial guns in games. But regardless, Unreal Tournament brought a completely fantastical spin to these games and was hilarious at the time, because you're looking at games that, were trying to take themselves really seriously. Like I said, we just got done talking about Medal of Honor. And Medal of Honor very much is trying to take itself seriously. It's trying to put you in that setting. It is trying to have you immersed in this moment. Unreal Tournament wasn't trying to do that. Unreal Tournament's like, hey, we have a gun that shoots green sludge. It's not great, but you can still get kills with it. Also, we have a rocket launcher that you can like load, a bajillion rounds into and fire, 4 rockets at once, or 2 or 3. It's up to you. Yeah, we have a railgun that will just, it's like the rod of God. Have fun with that. Also, we have a sniper rifle, but nobody ever uses that. But, you can still try if you want, and just throw you into these ridiculous maps, ridiculous settings, with ridiculous looking characters, and just had you running at 1,000,000 miles an hour. This game also, starts to boil down its very numerous number of game types into what becomes like the archetype for game modes now in a lot of games. Capture the flag, deathmatch, domination, last man standing. Unreal Tournament made you want to play something than just team deathmatch, because it was fun to play capture the flag. Especially you have all these freaking these boosters that are throwing you into the air, and you're flying across freaking flying across the freaking map, trying to get there fast, but you're also hoping they don't have a good shot. Hiding out somewhere, and then what do you know? You get blasted in the face on your way down because some dude's really good with a railgun. But the gameplay was lightning fast and super fun. And at this point now, you're looking at 1999. People are starting to get decent internet in their houses now. So now these games could be played with more people, and you're playing faster. And it was an amazing feeling, because it started to feel like games were catching up. Games started to catch up to the way players wanted to play. And that's something that Unreal Tournament did in spades. It's like, hey, do you want to go fast? You want to go really fast? If you want to go really fast, you played Unreal Tournament. Now, we are going to finish this episode off with one of the best shooters ever, and that is Halo Combat Evolved. If you want to sit here and look me dead in the face and say that Halo CE did not change first-person shooters forever, I'm going to call you a liar. Because if you think about it, this game made you care about a campaign. Like, really made you care about a campaign. Made you feel powerful in that setting of the campaign. Because at some point you're playing as Master Chief, and you're going to dick around, and you're going to flip your Warthog over. And then you're going to go and flip your Warthog back upright, and you're like, oh snap, I can just do that. Or, I'm going to fight these freaking huge aliens that are just slaying all these Marines, and I'm going to punch this dude in the face, and he's just whammy, gone. Or you're going to rocket jump and not really take a lot of damage, and you're like, oh snap, and then come down on a guy, and you're going to do that really cool, like, club effect, like, butt stroke with the rocket launcher, and feel like Superman. That, coupled with the multiplayer, which, again, 4-player split screen, local multiplayer, you're hooking up Xboxes left and right on multiple TVs, and you were having a freaking blast. At one point, I had 8 of us in a house, 2 Xboxes, 2 TVs across 2 separate rooms, just going ham salad on each other, and it was amazing. The first time that you counter someone rushing you, like they're coming at you, they're coming in fast, and you're like, oh snap, and you're trying to think of what you're gonna do. First thing you do is you turn around with the shotgun and just boom, pull off a quick sweep with the shotgun, and the dude's just down. You're like, oh my gosh, what the heck just happened? And then you're introducing, multiple vehicles into the multiplayer maps. Blood Gulch is probably one of the most recognizable multiplayer maps in gaming, period. If you just show someone a picture of that, it can be a top-down view. I swear to you, it could be a top-down view of that map. Print it out, you just show it to someone, like, oh yeah, that's that level from Halo. They'll know. But like, even a layman would know. Someone doesn't even play games, they know. And it's absolutely crazy to me. Made me appreciate a sniper rifle for the first time in any first-person shooter, because it felt effective. And it had its drawbacks, but that sniper rifle made you feel effective, made you feel like you were pulling off moves, and you're like, man, this is so good. The game just felt right. And the great thing about it is that because of the controller that the Xbox had, granted, the Duke was a beast. Like, we're not going to sit here and deny that. I don't know many people with hands like Andre the Giant, but they were definitely made for him. But even with that controller and the layout felt right. You have a dual analog layout. and your aiming and your movement feel smooth. They feel precise. Aiming with that controller with a sniper rifle, once you got the hang of it, you could be an artist and just be slaying dudes left and right. Then they're bringing in a lot of other mechanics from games like the launching platforms, the man cannons. That's what we call them, the man cannons. Then you have things like the Warthog, the Scorpion tank rolling around in those. You have actually effective freaking rocket launchers that are effective against vehicles as well. You have all of the multiplayer map types, and then you have all the different game types. King of the Hill, Capture the Flag, Team Deathmatch. Slayer. Team Slayer. But regardless, and then you have quite possibly the most iconic announcer voice in a first-person shooter. And I'll tell you right now, there is nothing more compelling in that game when you realize you get a triple kill and you're like, oh man, I am one away from a running riot. And that's all you want to hear is that guy go, running riot. And you're just like, yes, and you feel amazing. There's so much about Halo that, and over the years, this game came out in 2001. Over the years, taking everything that shooters were doing right and distilled it down into that one experience. And it gave it to you on a console where you could play on the same TV with 4 friends and said, hey man, have a blast. And you did, and it felt awesome. It felt really good playing there, sitting there playing with 4 friends. And maybe you're, going 2-on-2 or decide to go, free for all, whatever. That's your plan, crazy. But regardless, you're sitting there with your friends and you're doing 2-on-2, and it feels right. It feels like the way games had always been in your brain. I don't really know a better way to explain that, but in my head, when I think back about these games like Halo, games like Doom, Medal of Honor, once I started playing them, I don't remember a game being different until I go back and revisit it. Like now, obviously, I'm gonna go and play Apex Legends after I record this show, and the fact of the matter is that to me, Apex Legends feels like what games have been distilled into now, what they should have been, and at least in the way that my mind recognizes it. Until I go back and play another game, I go back and I play Halo Combat Evolved right now. It does feel antiquated, but it still feels good. Because at that time, when it came out and when you were playing it, that was the best distillation of that formula. And it just works. And not to beat a dead horse, but it works well. And that's one thing that I think is great about first-person shooters, is that mechanically, the only place you can really go with them is up. Like, they can only get better. Because as you implement new systems, as you implement different variations of mechanics and new game types and things like that, shooters as a concept only get better, and the execution is almost too easy. You put the player in control of either a relatable character or a faceless avatar, doesn't matter. You give them a decent balanced selection of weapons to deal with. You make the maps good. You make the maps to where there's a variety of points and advantages, and maybe you have bottlenecks here and there. But regardless, if you take that formula, you set it up correctly, and you let a bunch of people loose in that game, they're going to have a good time. The only thing that messes up first-person shooters is the things that you try to add in that don't need to be there. Or maybe it's not necessarily necessary, but it adds to it. That's fine. But when you're trying to put intrusive things into your games, maybe you're kind of getting away from the spirit of the whole thing. Like, do I have anything against loot boxes as a way for a developer to keep getting money? No. Do I think that they need to be used in a very specific way? Like, there should be like a guideline? Yes. Like, if it's for anything other than cosmetics, then no. Let's not even have that conversation. But if you're just talking about, it's just going to be cosmetics, it's just going to be, like things that aren't going to change the gameplay, then yeah, sure, let's do that. Fine. And for a game like Apex Legends where it's free to play, then yes, that's a way for the developer to get support later on down the line. But some games get away from that, and that's where I have problems. And a lot of other people have problems too. I'm not sitting here just, on my soapbox, screaming out, screaming at the cloud, being like, oh, why'd you change my shooters? It's not that. I'm not the only person here, and I don't claim to speak for everybody. But I do know that there are a lot of people that get upset when you get away from the basic formula. The formula can stay the same. You can add things to it and make it better. That's what allows these games to evolve and to go from things like Wolfenstein to what we have now, to your Overwatches, to your Apex Legends, Call of Duty not Infinite Warfare, Call of Duty Blackout, things like that. That is what allows you to go from point A to where we are now. But then you have games like Anthem, where it probably shouldn't have came to that. It probably shouldn't have came down to, well, is this game broken? We don't know. We'll find out though. And then you release it out into the wild and come to find out, yes, it is broken. And that's not cool. That's not good for anybody. It's not good for players. It's not good for developers. It's not good for the community. It's not good for games as a whole. And that's kind of the soapbox I'm on with that. And that's what I want to leave up to the audience to discuss and to talk about. And let me know what you think. Like, are you okay with games like Anthem coming out and like them ironing things out over time? Or would you prefer something that's more polished and something that's done? And maybe it does take 10 years for it to come out, but then it's finally finished and it's complete. And it's a good, well-made, well-rounded game. I do want to know what you think. And I'm not just talking about, the competitive aspects of games or even, story-based and stuff like that. Like the game as a package. You have things like Destiny 2. Destiny came out, it was pretty rough. And not that the game played bad. It was made by Bungie. They make the best shooters in the world. Like, they made Halo, for God's sake. But it was light in a lot of other areas. But then over time, they fixed it. And things got better. And they added in new content. And before you know it, The Taken King comes out. And everybody loves it. Well, Anthem couldn't even pull that off. So, I don't know. That's what I want to leave up to you. Like, do you think that games should come out as soon as they can and then have everything ironed out in the meantime? Or do you prefer to wait longer for a polished game? I prefer a polished game myself, but that's just me. So, thank you very much for watching. Remember, you can find Binary Gamer in all the places that you find your podcast, whether it be iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, Google Play Podcast. If you can listen to a podcast there, you can listen to Binary Gamer. You can also find us over on YouTube, and you can check us out every Sunday at 8:30 over on twitch.tv/binary_gamer. Remember, this month we are supporting Stack Up for their Call to Arms 2019 charity, and I want you guys to go over there and to support. If you don't want to support through us, that's fine. Just go over there and just donate. $2, $3, $5, whatever you got. Throw it over there, man. It's a really good cause. They're doing great things for veterans over there. And I know I'm going to support them. I think you should too. Also, check us out on the 30th of this month, 30 March. We're going to be doing our minimum 12-hour live stream where we are going to be trying to raise our $500 goal. It's going to be awesome. And yep, that is it. Once again, thank you very much for watching. Have an amazing week. Go out and play some games, kids. Class dismissed.